Boys, just got off work, feeling absolutely amazing because yet again we come out of the shift with fresh new ideas, fresh new insights relative to just leveling up my standard, progressing towards that best version of ourselves, baby. 2.0, right? Beautiful insights that I've just received, man. Before we get into the discussion for today, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna keep it real, this is a take two, right? This is a take two of a video that I recorded earlier today, but I felt it was one of those videos where it was just like, come on, right? You can do better than that, or you can do way better than that. So I was like, you know what, yeah, we're gonna re-record it. And part of the insights at work was like, we gotta take to it, baby. We gotta take to it. But before we get in, bro, come on, mandatory post shift haul, starting off hot. Protein powder, right? The chocolate one that I was using from like Transparent Labs ran out of it, but this one is looking nice. This one is looking absolutely phenomenal. Vanilla bean, it's got 100% grass fed. It's got like it's a blend of like plant and animal based, which I'm not gonna lie, usually I'm part of the animal based camp in terms of protein and whatnot, especially with protein powders. I don't really fuck with plant protein powders, but I'm not gonna lie, this one seemed really interesting. This one seemed super interesting, so we're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it is. Yeah, looking absolutely amazing, that one. But some chicken thighs, boneless, skinless. Gonna whip these up. I've never had chicken thighs before, but I saw that they are essentially like the fatty version of chicken, bro. Because I was for so long part of that camp of like, it's chicken breasts all the way, bro, when it comes to like the gym and like eating and stuff, like. But I'm trying to hop on that fatty stuff for the keto days, obviously. And then dude, you can't go wrong with the avocados, 4 of them bad boys. Going to absolutely destroy those. We'll probably have one today. Beautiful post-shift haul. Bros, the importance of leading with your heart in everything you do, it can be matched. It can't be matched, and it's something that I will reiterate until the day I die, right? Since discovering the importance of leading with your heart in everything you do, it's changed my life so dramatically. And it was especially yesterday that I realized the importance of leading with your heart. And it's why I'm going to touch on the idea of course, leaning into your heart, but more importantly, recognizing when you are leading with your mind over your heart, your ego over your soul. I think so many people do nowadays, and especially relative to the example I'm about to give, I realized that I was doing this, right? I was doing this. It's like, even though I preach these things, man, of course it's something I've recently learned within the past few months. So of course I'm not perfect, right? I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've cracked the code and my life is amazing and I have it all figured out. Of course not. But of course I come on here just providing value and documentation within my own journey and how certain things have served me and how other things have essentially led to a bit of struggle or just mistakes on my part. And of course it's my duty, I feel it's my obligation to come on here and essentially expose those things, but not necessarily like to shit on myself, right? But to just hold myself accountable whilst giving value through that. So relative to this, man, and this is honestly, this is a really significant thing in terms of how fitness and health is my current priority. But essentially what I came to the realization of was that when it comes to setting goals, right, now we're shifting to talking about goals and stuff, but when it comes to setting goals, there's a difference between goals that come from here and goals that come from here. You see, within, if you saw my summer transformation video where I essentially outlined how last summer I essentially, changed my life, forever, right? Coming out of easily the worst point of my life, right? That was essentially rock bottom where I was at. And that summer I changed everything through, adopting the 2.0 system and just developing myself physically, mentally, spiritually, having vehicles within each of those aspects to develop myself. And it was extremely, extremely powerful season of my life. And within that video, I spoke on how essentially looking back at that period just reignited this fire within me to just, do the same thing within this summer. Why not set that intention once again this summer? And truthfully, that was something that originated from my heart, right? That was an instance and a moment where I was truly leading with my heart in terms of I just felt so strongly compelled to do this. And of course it was for the right reasons. But as I realized yesterday, because also, I've been reading this book over the past few months that has also tremendously helped with helping me embrace my authenticity more, which once I finish it, I will 100% make a video on it. But it was within yesterday, I read a principle in particular that explained the idea of borrowed goals, where in looking back at that season of my life, what I failed to realize was that in the heat of the moment of getting that compulsion of I'm going to set the intention to, pursue a transformation like that once again, I realized that I was, I added complexity to the situation. I took what my heart was telling me to do, but then my ego began to sort of, try and, make its way into the, conversation, I guess, metaphorically speaking. And this is why I feel like I told myself, I almost convinced myself that I needed to beat my previous 5K time. And that's essentially what I'm trying to get at in terms of what leading with your ego does, because in doing that, in allowing my ego to take, control of the wheel in that brief moment, I essentially put myself on, I strayed a bit from what the overarching idea was. The main purpose behind that intention, that compulsion that I got, was simply to just transform my life again, pursue that transformation across the physical, mental, and spiritual once again. But what I tried to do was essentially borrow the goals of my previous self and try to apply it in the now. Hence why I told myself, I'm just gonna do another 5K training plan and try and beat my previous time. But what I realized was that, especially within my runs, because of course I've been, executing on that up until now, but what I noticed was that, especially yesterday, when I went on one of my runs in the morning, first thing in the morning before work, I noticed that it's even though I can of course complete the runs, it's by the end of the runs, man, and this isn't just this one, but I noticed it was a consistent feeling across, multiple of these runs, where by the end of it, I was almost annoyed. I wasn't even that fulfilled when I was finishing it, when in reality, it's when you lead by your heart, it's naturally everything that you do is it just fills you up. It gives you energy. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't take away. But that's exactly what these runs were doing, where by the end, it just felt like I had to exert so much mental discipline and just force myself to push through in order to, hit the pace targets, hit the certain, number of miles I was supposed to do that day. And I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. That's not how I wanted to approach the cardio aspect of, just absolutely becoming a physical unit across strength, hypertrophy, endurance, mobility, all of that. That's not how I wanted to approach cardio. But in leading by my ego within that moment, when I first got the idea to, go on that transformation and of course document it on here, it's I was thinking about the outcome. I was thinking about, dude, it would be so sick if I beat my previous time and, I would get the physique and all that in the process. And I was really just thinking about the outcome. I wasn't thinking about whether I actually wanted to, whether the actual effort and process of doing those runs, getting in those miles weekly. It's literally why initially I was running 3 times a week. Then I dropped it to 2. And even in some of the runs, I was cutting them short because it just felt like I was overexerting myself for no reason. because I knew deep down, my heart was literally telling me, like, bro, like, because literally within these changes I was making to the plan, that was just signaling to me that this wasn't the move, that this wasn't truly what was of my heart. It was from the mind, it was from the ego, just trying to fixate on like the glory and, you know, being able to come on here and be like, yeah bros, like, yeah, I beat my previous 5K time. Like, that wasn't why I wanted to embark on this journey, you know, this season of my life where I'm just going all in on fitness and health, of course supplementing the mental and the spiritual alongside that. That wasn't why. And so it made me realize that I needed to pull the plug on the 5K training, because I really sat and reflected and determined within myself that this was a borrowed goal, right? This was a goal from the ego and not from the heart. So I decided to pull the plug on that. And essentially how I'm going to start approaching cardio now is I'm just going to, you know, I'm still going to run 100%, because it was never this thing of like, oh, like, you know, I can't be bothered to run and, you know, train cardio, right? Like, I value cardio. I love cardio. I love running, right? Running is one of the few forms of cardio that it just gets me in that mode, right? It just gets me so, it just feels amazing just getting out there shirtless, running in the heat. You know, you sit in there with your thoughts, or you listen to like a podcast or some shit. Like, it's beautiful, right? Running is amazing, but not in the way that I was approaching it, where I was like trying to be disciplined and structured and tell myself, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna beat my time. Like, no, I just want to have it to where some days it's like I just go out and I run maybe like 30-45 minutes, just calm pace, not, you know, my heart rate isn't going crazy. Because another thing was that I felt so fatigued, my legs, my CNS, it just felt like after all of these runs, it just felt like I was overexerting myself so unnecessarily, whatever, you get the point. But yeah, so I just knew within my heart, I knew it was telling me that I had to stop, that I had to pivot in terms of my approach within that. And it's why I wanted to come on here and explain that, where of course this seems like an instance where I'm going against my word, because that's another thing I've been valuing recently, is honesty, you know, honoring my word as well. But I realized that if it means, you know, trying to stay true to something that, you know, was more so tailored towards my older self, a previous version of me, it's like, you know, it's a different ball game now, right? It's a whole different goal. There's whole different circumstances. You know, I can't use old tools to solve new problems. You know what I'm saying? So it's exactly why I have to adapt and pivot and not rely on what worked back then, because truthfully the circumstances were much different. And now I have so many more resources, so many more tools, plus the added experience of back then to know that, okay, I can definitely come up with something way, way better that'll serve me and actually fulfill me in the ways I want it to. And that's exactly what that's going to do with this new cardio approach, baby. But hey, if you guys got value, man, that was because truthfully, it really, you know, it really hit me yesterday night after reading that principle, where it was just like, dude, like, yeah, I need to stop leading with my ego. I need to stop. And it's not to say your ego is like the enemy, right? You know, I know there's a book called that because I've read it. And the thing about ego is that for a lot of people, it really is the enemy, right? It is the enemy. But once you're able to understand the importance of leading with your heart, it's all about then getting your ego to be on the same page as your heart, right? Create that unity between the two. That is everything, right? In terms of the mental and the spiritual, if you can align your mind and your soul, right, your thoughts and your beliefs, bro, the physical takes care of itself. The physical naturally takes care of itself. But honestly, that's a video for another day, right? That's a video for another day. But if you guys got value, drop a like, comment, all that good stuff, man. Remember, lead with your heart, not your mind, right? Your mind, it only focuses on things that are flashy, and it's only thinking about the outcomes, if we're keeping it a buck. But the heart always thinks from a place of fulfillment and what actually fills your soul, what fills your life with just an infinite and endless amount of energy. That is something you can carry within every single day. Just remind yourself that, am I making a decision from my heart? Am I leading with my heart? Am I chasing this goal because it is something that originated from here and not from here? Because I saw it, you know, from a past version of me or just other people, right? Don't borrow your goals, man. The only place goals come from is here, right? It's always here, right, bro? The bag is literally blocking, but always from here, baby. Always from here, but hey, see y'all.